We're back, baby.
We're so back.
We are so fucking back. And Peter is back from Australia. Sorry that you have to come back here of all places, but it's good to see you.
I think it might be easier to start. Did anything bad happen? Did anything that was not great happen in Australia? Because it seems like just a kind of parade of really nice things happening the whole time.
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, yeah, my flight from LAX was quote unquote delayed, but significantly delayed. Where basically I was supposed to leave at 11 p.m. and they waited until everybody was on the airplane to realize that there's not enough pilots. Because I guess it's a crew of two, but then it's like they need redundancy for the long flight. So they have two crews that take turns, and they were one guy short. So they sent so that was so that flight was delayed until the next day, which at the time I was very upset about. Because I thought, well, I'm going to lose an entire day. But as it turned out, kind of ended up being fine, and actually like kind of serendipitously wonderful because I ended up doing a bunch of stuff and connecting with some people that I would not have otherwise had my flight gone on as scheduled. Yeah, so I would say that was kind of the one moment of just like, oh fuck, where it's like, is this gonna go the way that you expect everything to go? But then it turned out awesome. Yeah, so I mean, I guess we could just start there. Should we introduce the pod?
Let's introduce the pod.
It's tired. It's the podcast. God damn it.
Yeah, you're back. Yay.
Yay. It's tired. It's the car podcast. Car podcast for people who understand that cars are bad.
Yeah.
My name is Peter Hughes. I'm joined by Rory Carroll and Maddie Riley. I was in Australia for 2 weeks. Although, there's a couple of days travel on either end of that. So really I was down there for, like a week and a half, but, it was a really, really, really good time, man. And I, even though I'm back and, that's good to be back home too, but back to part of what was really nice about it was just, being kind of like vaguely and distantly aware that like there was some crazy shit going on here. I don't know. Did some stuff happen? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I'm podcasting from underneath a bus the Democratic Party threw me under, where I will be for the foreseeable future. Other than that, not like, I don't know. It's like Elon's got some lanyards messing around with all the computers, and one of them is nicknamed Big Balls. So there's that. Other than that, I won't. You'll catch up through osmosis. You don't need to.
I saw a really good, like, this is like a genre of tweet, but it was this kid, some news person, I guess, reporter, posted, here are the names of the 5 teenagers who are now in control of all of your personal data. And underneath it, there was this guy who's like, let me tell you something about whatever, one of the guys. When we were at Berkeley, we had a big project due, and we accidentally deleted all of our source code. And he just looked at the monitor and just sat there, and in 2 days, he rewrote everything better better than it was to begin with, and I would trust him with anything in my life. And it's like, that is so fucking funny to say. It's like, look, guys, he did good on homework this time, so I don't see what the big deal is. Like, we had this project due, and he did it. So, what is the difference between good things and bad things? Yeah,
It's incredible.
Well, I have to say one of the most notable things about just the experience of being in Australia is just it's just the part of it that where you're not in the United States and you are outside. You're no longer immersed in the ambient chaos and horror that is everyday life in the United States, and it's and you also, I mean, it's so genuinely startling to be in a place where those feelings and that the feelings of that ambient chaos and anxiety and fear are absent, because you're not aware of it until it's gone, right? And suddenly you're in a place where it's like, oh, that's not here, and it's like where you literally like start wondering, it's like, why is everybody smiling? Why is everybody in a good mood? Why did, when that lady came out of the gas station bathroom, why did she just smile at me and just kind of like, because she's having a good day.
Yeah.
Because she's not fucking upset or anxious about anything. It's really like,
imagine.
And the thing is, and it's so pervasive, and it's everywhere you fucking go. It's whether you're just fucking walking down a street in a city. It's if you're at a car race. It's just the way that just kind of people just are having their normal interactions with each other. There's so much just more just kind of like effortless goodwill and just kind of like friendliness that's not in a way that's like like somebody like trying to be friend. It's just like, no, mate, it's like we're all good.
Yeah. The American paranoia is really, I imagine, like, we're all kind of aware of it, but like imagining being in a place without that's like similar to us except for the paranoia sounds great.
I mean, I know that like from a distance it does sound a little bit scary, because the unfamiliar is always scary,
unnerving.
But I got to tell you, I think you would clock into it in about 30 seconds, and you would just be like, oh wow. And like, and the muscles in your shoulders and in your back would just like relax, and this tension that you had not even been aware that you've been carrying for, I don't know, years.
There's rust coming off your jaw. Like,
we're just like, you just kind of like, oh wow, what's going on? What is this unfamiliar sensation?
I do have so much tension in my shoulders right now that I can't lift my arm above my shoulder height, because my back is completely locked. So maybe just for that, it'd be worth the flight down there to get that. Get that straight.
Therapeutic.
Yeah. Well, so my flight down was very uncomfortable. I was on a 777, shitty American Airlines 777, and the seats were brutal, and it was very uncomfortable. And by the time I got down there to Sydney, I was pretty wrecked. I had plans to fly on to Melbourne because I was doing stuff in Melbourne that I'm still going to be coy about for now. But it was fucking awesome. As it happened, because of the flight delay, I missed my connection. So I ended up having more or less, and the next connection that I could get to Melbourne wasn't until late in the afternoon the next day. So I had a morning and afternoon to kill in Sydney. And well, okay. So recall that that when we talked about on the kind of Australia preview episode, you guys asked me if there were automotive things that I was looking forward to seeing. And the two things that were kind of on my list, number one was I really wanted to see a Hyundai Staria, the funky minivan with the acres of glass that we don't get in the United States. I wanted to see one of those. I hoped that I might happen upon one at some point during my visit. And I also wanted to see some Chinese stuff because as we've been talking so much about Chinese stuff, right? And there are Chinese manufacturers in the Australian market. So those are the two things. So I get off the plane in Sydney. It's nighttime now. I get a cab to the hotel that's just outside the airport, but it's too long to walk. I didn't know the lay of the land yet, so I get a cab, and and on the way to the hotel, drive past an XPeng dealership. So it's like, oh, that's cool, that's exciting. Maybe I'll have a chance to visit that. And then pull up in front of the hotel and directly across the street from the hotel, there is a line of 3 Hyundai Staria vans.
Let's go. Let's go.
And as it happens, like those things, they are fucking everywhere. It's a total smash hit. They're all over the place. You can't walk for 5 minutes without seeing one in any city. And what's wild about them, when you see them in photos, because the glass is so big, like your brain just does the kind of to scale thing. I was kind of picturing it like the size of like, I don't know, like one of those Mazda 5.
Yeah, the little minivan was the 5.
Right.
Yeah. Not that
So that's what I was kind of picturing was kind of like a minivan. And no, these things are like a full size fucking minivan, which is to say, I mean, they're basically a van. They are big. Which just makes the size of those windows like even more just like, wow. Like they're really, really something really cool.
I wonder if that's like if there's, you could do some research and figure out like, is the popularity of the Staria versus like mid-size to large crossovers, is that like a product of a lack of anxiety or a lack of like that dread, like that, that drives Americans into like crossovers? And that's,
I wonder. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, like you were saying, Rory, the off-road culture down there is very big, and I did see like huge evidence of that because the other thing that you see tons of, even in the cities, are like tricked out Honda Hiluxes, where they're lifted. They've got like, but they're like super like tricked out off-road, instead of a bed, like where the bed would go, it's almost like this kind of like, it's like a capsule, with all of your gear, and like they look really hardcore and pretty awesome. And so this, I would think, like, I mean, these, I don't know. I mean, I have to think that most of these are used for the purpose for which they are intended. It's not just like the kind of, like the kind of like, I want to look like a rugged off-roader. I mean, I'm sure there's some of that. But I mean, these are so purposeful looking that, but they are very common,
I would have
you
to
see them just.
I'd have to look, but they're heavily regulated there as far as like how you can build them and like what the specs are.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they were like kind of prohibitively expensive for posing purposes. Like you wouldn't buy one unless you needed one.
That could be. Yeah.
Or like, just like it doesn't make sense to buy one if you don't need one.
Right. Right. But I did see them like walking around neighborhoods that were pretty like solidly middle class neighborhoods, not like in the old American sense, of the middle class that we used to have.
Not familiar, but go ahead.
Oh man,
I think I read about that. Yeah,
they still have that. It was still here when I was growing up, and this is a thing that I don't know if we've talked about this on the pod before, but my experience of going to Australia, the first bunch of times I went down there was very much like, wow, this reminds me of so much of Southern California, specifically of my childhood, and I attributed most of that just to the landscape, because the landscape, you're going to these kind of Mediterranean climate cities, most coastal, so it's very Southern California vibed, and I mean, John, Mountain Goats John, I mean, he can corroborate this. I mean, he grew up in Southern California too. And this is the thing that we would talk about. It's like, man, this reminds us, like we would just be tripping out on how Perth feels like the Inland Empire. But the thing that I discovered at some point, is that, no, the reason that it feels like that, it's not just California, it is the United States of your childhood as a, 50-something person, because the minimum wage is by U.S. standards insanely high, and you can work a pretty, like, what would be a shitty job here, and be paid pretty well for it,
podcaster,
and be paid a living wage,
man.
And this is the reason that this is the reason that like when you go to just like a cafe or a supermarket or whatever, that the people who are working there are really cheerful and don't seem to resent being there. And they're actually like helpful and friendly, and it's because they don't mind working, because it's like they're being
paid enough to be there.
Yeah, exactly. and they feel like that's a fair deal and it's a fair exchange, and when they go home they're going to have a quality of life that that is like stunningly awesome compared to what we have. So all of this to say that, this is why it reminded me of the childhood that I grew up in, where my blue collar, non-college educated parents, owned a house and could put a pool in when I was 12 years old,
Unfathomable.
Right. And so walking around these neighborhoods that were very much like the neighborhoods that I grew up in as a kid, except like less just kind of like shitty generic suburban and more just kind of like cool suburban, not even suburban, just whatever. But they're not like they're actually like really great car spotting neighborhoods, as opposed to like the kind of, like when you're like here, when you're in kind of a too bougie neighborhood, it's just like I just think of them as like Teslavilles, where it's just like everything is at least BMW or Audi or Tesla, and it's just like, but no, these neighborhoods, like I say, old school American, middle class, working class, and full of these nice, presumably expensive, off-road kitted out trucks.
I was gonna not to go too far back, but I was gonna mention, like, when growing up in Traverse City, I do, like, when I moved back here, there is a notable change in just the mood of people, and like I remember as a kid doing the head nod or like smiling or saying hello to pretty much every person that I met. And like, sure, granted, I did know many of them because it was a small town, but right, that was just like very commonplace. And now I attribute it to people having moved up here from downstate. But it's probably just that now no one does that anywhere in the United States. Like
paranoia.
Yeah, or
Everyone's
just
out to
like
get you.
the low level, like simmering misery of day-to-day life. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be a combo. Of
I was like, man, all these downstate people don't know how to say hello when you say them, or you'll say hello to someone and they'll just ignore you, which is like,
right. Or just look at you like, who the fuck are you?
Every day of my fucking life.
Yeah. Like, yeah. It's like there have been times where I've been like, did you not hear me? Like,
right. Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I said hello.
Yeah.
I am doing pro-social behavior at you right now.
Yeah. This is your community, you idiot. Anyway.
Yeah. So next morning I wake up and now I've got some time to kill, and so yeah, like I say, a very uncomfortable airplane ride, and I was pretty wrecked, and I actually had the thought that it's like, maybe, I'm gonna have like a bunch of time, like maybe I might actually like try and find like a massage, and not something that I don't think I've ever done, like, but people that I tour with, like, that's kind of like a thing that, yeah, actually it's not a bad idea. But then I was like, well, I gotta go check out the XPeng dealership, because it's literally just like a block away from where I'm staying. It's across the street from the airport. So I cruise over, and wow, I had a real experience at the XPeng dealership, because it's really chill, super friendly. It's brand new. This dealership has been open since like January. Like it's like less than a month old. So I mean, and it's very sleek. It's very gleaming. The design of it, the exterior design is pretty cool. Looks really good at night. So I walk in, and the downstairs they've got a few models of the SUV, which is the only model that is on sale right now. These cars have only gone on sale, like, I mean, XPeng is brand new in Australia. It has been there. These cars went on sale in December, and so far this SUV is the one model that is for sale. So they've got a few of them on the ground floor, and then you go upstairs, and there are some forthcoming models that will be arriving later in 2025. There was the sporty sedan with the butterfly doors, 4-door, very, like, looked really nice. There's the crazy the X9 van that I think we talked about on a prior episode or two. That's the kind of premium, expensive executive class minivan. It's not even a minivan, it's just a van. And then what was the third one? There was the G9, another guy,
the big SUV.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. So they had these ones upstairs. These were left-hand drive models, because the right-hand drive ones aren't ready yet. But you could sit in them and check them out, and I did, and yeah, man, you guys weren't fucking kidding. Holy shit, are these cars nice as hell? Yeah. I mean, like, really, really
shocking.
Yeah, like, you're kind of taken aback, where it's like, this is like, I mean, it's like, this is one of the nicest cars I've ever sat in terms of just like the the materials, like it really just, it exudes this sense of like real premium quality, and niceness. And yeah, and so I sat in the back of the X9, the van, and which and there were other people, there were other people shopping, and a couple of guys upstairs who were checking the cars, and these guys were climbing out of the van as I was getting in the back of it, and the guy just said to me, it's like, oh man, it's a whole experience. It has like the zero gravity seats, which I couldn't really figure out like how to active. Like I think there was some added, from what I could tell, like the zero gravity button, all it did was just kind of lift the leg rest. But I feel like there's probably another thing that anyway. But yeah, I mean, fully, yeah, you can recline it like crazy. You can, I mean, it's 20-way adjustable, whatever, but it's also heated and cooled, and has a pretty highly configurable massage feature. And so yeah, I just sat in the back of the XPeng X9 for half an hour getting a massage.
Let's go.
For free at the XPeng dealership.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome. Oh, and the other thing that they have there is a quadcopter, a gull-wing door quadcopter, that I asked, and I talked to a couple of the salespeople there, a couple of very nice ladies, and who were, I told them, it's like, I mean, it's fun, like walking into one of these places as an American and just being like, okay, so, like, can we help you? And it's like, well, I'm just here to look, really. I'm from the U.S. and sadly, this is all forbidden fruit for me. But I'm very curious and very interested in it, and they're really excited to kind of show it off. But yeah, the quadcopter, I guess, is for sale in China and in I forget where they said, in the Middle East. I mean, probably like UAE or someplace like that, or Saudi maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's the quadcopter is essentially a toy. Like they said, it's maybe 20-25 minutes of flight time. You're not going to use it in any like practical transportation sense, but it does work, and you can buy one in places in the world and use it, and it looks pretty fucking cool, man. I gotta say,
yeah, it looks awesome.
Like
I think I said on the pod, but it's like the idea of a Cybertruck if it was like really well executed and didn't look stupid and like didn't look like very awkward and weirdly proportioned.
Right. Well, this is. Did you see this one? This is not the Zeekr one. This is a
no. That's
different one.
The XPeng one. That's the one I saw.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good looking thing.
Yeah, it looks cool.
And it really, like, it's that weird. It's that thing that we've been talking about, with respect to China stuff, is that it's like, it's futuristic in a way that is optimistic. It's like, it's a friendly version of the future where it's like, it's like, yeah, like this is shit to be excited about. It's like, it's super cool.
I mean, and there is something that, like, the Western automakers have like largely gone away from making concept cars because it's expensive and like they don't get to put the car into production or whatever. And it's like the Chinese response to that is like, we will just make the concept car and then also sell it. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
It's like, no, you're right. Concept cars are a waste of time. We will just make a really incredibly futuristic car that we then sell.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, like I say, I mean, just the experience of being in there and seeing these things in real life, and talking to the people, and I said, so I mean, you guys have been here for a month. I mean, how is it going? And they like, their eyes got big, and they said it's going really good. And they said like people are coming in, checking these cars out, going cross shopping, driving a Tesla, and coming straight back here. And the Teslas that they get are built in China as well.
Yeah.
And I was curious about like, I asked them like, does the quality of like the build quality of the Chinese Teslas, like I wonder how they would compare to the US ones. But they didn't really they weren't sure. But because I just said this because Tesla build quality in the US is essentially a joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
but yeah,
good.
it was very eye opening and very cool. And of course, like, yeah, these cars are, they generally cost about half to a third less than what you would expect. Just given the quality of the materials. They're not like cheap, but they're fucking cheap. I mean, like even like the sexy sports sedan thing that's coming, I think that's like, like a $40,000 US proposition, which again is just like,
it's a good value. Hell of value.
Yeah. And I guess as long as we're on the subject of Chinese stuff, just the last day, after I came back from the race at Bathurst, came back to Sydney because obviously I was flying home from there, and so had got back around noon and then had most of the day in Sydney. And so I went for a really long walk from the airport all the way up to Sydney Harbor, and ended up walking through a bunch of cool neighborhoods just by accident that I knew before. There were a million just kind of like, I guess the theme of this trip was kind of serendipity, because there were so many just like unplanned, awesome things that just happened and came together completely by accident. So in addition to just randomly walking past like my favorite cafe in Sydney, a place where that would be around the corner from the hotel where Mountain Goats would traditionally stay in Sydney, and I'd always go there and get my coffee and my pastry. I walked also past the BYD dealership and the MG dealership. And check those out, and those were very illuminating as well, especially the BYD store. That was kind of in a kind of like a larger complex, sort of a mall. But you go inside, and there's in kind of the main open plaza, there's like a BYD cafe, that again, very sleek looking, but with like plants hanging down, kind of ivy hanging down the front of it. So it's like, it's sleek, but it's also like very eco green and friendly and just nice,
Not like full Apple store, clinical,
right.
like, yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. Right. No, it's, yes. Yeah. And then you cruise over to the actual showroom, and you walk in, and there's kind of like this big lighting feature and these walls of video screens and cars lined up on either side, and a bare chassis in the middle, and then kind of, and as you walk in, there's like a little fucking rolling robot dude who comes up to you with a screen on the front just saying, "Hi, I am the BYD robot. Would you like some water?" and he's saying this to you, and as he's cruising by, you see on the backside of him, there's a bunch of just water bottles. Yeah, grab yourself a water, and it's like, well, I actually have a water already, but thank you. That's so thoughtful. And again, like, I mean, this is the kind of shit that if you encountered it here, right? If you encountered just like, if you're in a public space and like or private space, if you're in a store and a robot approaches you, like, your antenna goes up and it's just like, get the fuck away, whatever the fuck you are. I do not want to have to interface with you. Get away, you know?
Office Space copier scene .mp4. Yeah, full on,
yeah,
like
exactly.
baseball bat.
Right. And it's like, no, here's this friendly little guy offering you some free water. It's just like, and then he keeps going, and then the other guy then it's like the next one like comes up, and they're just like rotating around, and when they find a person, it's like, hey, can I offer you some water? It's like, you know, I'd be happy if I had one of those dudes just following me around and, you know, just for the rest of my walk, because at some point I am going to need some more water. But yeah, that was funny. And sales guy came over and started chatting and told me about the BYDs that they have going on. And these things again, and there's, I can't remember the each of the models, but there's, you know, there's a small SUV, there's a sedan. The sedan is the Sea Lion, is that right? I think it's a Seal. The Seal is the one that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So very sleek, handsome 4-door sedan, kind of small midsize. The interior is fucking shockingly nice. It is so goddamn nice. And I was actually looking before we started doing this, checking out the website for these things, because it's 3 levels. There's the base dynamic, the mid-range premium, and the top of the line performance version. The one that I was sitting in, I believe, was a premium model. These guys, like 0 to 60 in like 6 seconds, 230 kilowatts power, which is like 300 horsepower. And what does it cost? It's drive away price $56,000 Australian, which I think when I was texting you about this, I said that's less than 40 grand, but it's $35,000 US.
That is
for this.
That's like the conversations I've been talking with a lot of Americans about Chinese cars recently, and like everyone's like, yeah, but how much does it cost? And you're like, well, it costs about half what you expect it to, and like that's when everybody's like, oh.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the thing. Like what they call it the drive away price in Australia. So what that means, or, you know, it's basically the on the road price. Like you're out the door, you know, tax, title, blah blah blah, all that shit. $35,000. That's less than I paid for the fucking Elantra.
Yeah.
And this thing has 300 horsepower. And the interior feels like it's out of a fucking $80,000 Audi. I mean, it's so. I mean,
that was the shock. That was like in Goodwood. Like I said, when I sat in the BYD, it's like you expect like the luxury cars to be luxury cars and like the more expensive end of things to be like more expensive. But I think it may have been the Seal getting the BYD, where it was just like, why is this so nice? Like, why are like the materials so nice, and why is everything so well put together? It was like uncanny, kind of like this. You know what I mean? Like, this is too nice. Yeah.
It's like, how is this possible?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and it like we've talked about it.
I think of.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I mean, like the thing is, like with my car, with the Hyundai Elantra N, it's like I think of that interior as being like, hey, this is the nicest interior on a car that I've ever owned. You know, it's like it's not like premium, but it's like
it's nice.
The shit works and the seats are comfortable and like you know, it's like, but it's like no. This shit is fucking like on a completely other level. you know, it's like 2 or it's like 3 levels up. You know, it's what you would expect, like getting into like
a Mercedes
S class.
Yeah.
Just crazy. So they had a bunch of those, and then there's a big truck too, like a pickup, kind of like a U.S. size big truck, and that there were a couple of guys there looking at and who were shopping and very interested in and asking like when are you, you know, can we put down an order like now, when are these coming in, like and the guy was saying we're gonna get them in March, and then there's a big kind of Land Rover style SUV, like 3-row, that's like a premium, you know, 6-figure thing that looked really, really nice. I mean, big presence, big, just stylish, very, very fucking slick, man. So like I say, I mean, just you see it with your own eyes and it's like, damn, this shit is real. And like I say, I mean, you do see them all over the place in traffic. And the other thing is like, it's not just these cars. I mean, there's when you're just out and about in the city, there's a ton of these cars and they kind of go under the radar, a lot of them. I mean, there's the ones that like the latest ones, the newest ones are more stylish, and more premium and more impressive, but a lot of them are just these GWM SUVs. I think they're called a Haval. GWM is Great Wall Motors, and these guys, these are pretty innocuous, just kind of like, you know, small to mid-sized SUV. You know, it kind of just looks like a Nissan Rogue or something, or a RAV4. But yeah, I mean, those guys are everywhere. I saw tons of those. You know, once you clock them, it's like, oh, there's another one of those guys. Oh, okay, now, and then you just realize how many of them that you've been seeing without even realizing. Tons of MG stuff. Smaller, like I did go over to the MG showroom, and MG, which is it's under the SAIC, which is one of the state-owned, partially state-owned Chinese manufacturers. That's kind of under their umbrella. The MGs are decidedly kind of lower rent. I mean, they're smaller, cheaper, like really cheap, like sub $20,000 US. The materials are kind of you know, on a par with that. Like these are not shockingly nice cars. These are just, they're kind of plasticky and cheap. But for you know what they're going for,
works for me.
They're fine. And they do have some kind of more upscale offerings, and they're kind of, they have this halo car now to celebrate the I guess the 100th anniversary of MG as a mark, and that is this roadster called the Cyberster, like Roadster Cyber. Mm-hmm. So instead of a Cyber truck, they get a Cyberster, and this thing actually looks fucking really good. It's very sexy, convertible with butterfly doors, and there was a guy who had one at Bathurst, and there was like kind of a big cars and coffee kind of display outside the track, and a bunch of really cool cars at this thing, and I did talk to the guy who brought this, was curious about it, and he really likes it. He said he for him it replaced an Audi TT. It is, he said it doesn't handle quite as good as the TT did, but it's really fast. It's like 3 seconds 0 to 60. And he's just said it's really fun.
Hell yeah.
And that's an expensive car too. That's like that's a 6-figure Australian car. But it's funny too. I his wife, I was chatting with her for a little bit just about it. I guess they also, this was not their first EV. They had, or maybe still have, a BYD that his wife drives, and so I was chatting with her, and she said something about, I can't remember exactly what we were talking, just talking about stuff in the States, or maybe she was asking me about something, and somehow like talking about Teslas, and she just said like, boy, Elon, it really seems like he's lost a bit of his shine, doesn't it? I just thought that was like, it was a very diplomatic way of putting it. I was like, yeah.
It depends on who you are, I guess.
I'd say so.
Yeah,
I'd say so. But I mean, these were not, like I say, these are not politicized people. These are just like people just living in this like pretty chill world, going about their lives, kind of looking at it, seeing things going on in the U.S. from a distance, from a safe remove, and just being like that was her take on Elon. I thought was really funny. It's like, yeah, he has lost a bit of his shine.
Yeah. I want to hear about the race, but I do have one question about this experience with the Chinese cars there. I think like one of the things that people talk about in the States with Chinese cars is like, oh, Americans won't buy Chinese cars because they have like broad anti-Chinese sentiment, which I don't think is. They certainly don't have a problem buying Chinese TVs or literally any other consumer good, which is all made in China. Was there any of that in Australia where people are like, oh boy, I don't know about these Chinese?
I don't think so. I think it's kind of the same thing.
It's like you were in the dealer, you were talking to, you know what I mean? It's not like you were doing man on the street, you know, like, but yeah, did you encounter any of the like? No. I mean, like I say, I mean, it just seems like anybody shopping for a car, even if you had I mean, I don't know how common that sentiment is. I'm sure there is a contingent of kind of, you know, Australia firsters.
Oh yeah.
Maybe, but I mean, look, the Australian economy is as intertwined with China as ours is, if not more so, because like a huge part of the Australian economy is mining, and the Chinese are a massive customer. So a lot of the money coming into Australia is coming from China, and yeah, I mean, just like, yeah, I don't know. The only sentiment that I heard like that, as far as like international resentment stuff went, was when I was and it's not about China, is when I was talking to people about the V8 supercars, because, you know, for years those were Holden, Australian built Holdens and Fords, and those both ended production like within the last 5 years, and there are no domestic Australian cars anymore, and so the V8 supercars are now Camaros and Mustangs. And it's still, I mean, that's still like the quintessentially Australian racing, you know, that's their NASCAR. And they fucking love it. And the culture of it is huge. And it's like, you know, it's very much like, it's the bogan thing, you know, bogans are that's Australian for redneck. And, but yeah, there are definitely people who kind of resent the fact that, like, now we get these American cars instead of our old cars. And like, and I you know, and I mentioned it to somebody that like the funny thing of the way that, you know, when those, when like the Holden, Monaros, started coming to the States as Pontiac GTOs, and the Commodores started coming to the States as Pontiac G8s and Chevy SSs. And, you know, and I said, like, the funny thing was, like, you know, people here would just to be cool, you know, thought it was cool to like reverse badge them as Holdens, right? And of course, people in Australia, do the, you know, there are people in Australia who do the same thing, who would you know, put the Pontiac or Chevy bow tie, you know, or just order a fascia or whatever, the front end and put it on. But I was told that, like, yeah, no, there are people who do that here, but when those guys show up to car shows, there are people who are not happy about it.
Oh wow!
Like they think that that's bullshit, and that you should not be, you know, that we should be proud of our fucking Australian cars. So,
that's anti-imperialism,
but right. So yeah.
Speaking of racing,
yeah. Speaking of racing. So before we get to the race, I mean, I have to actually. The other fun thing about this trip was that we talked about, and that I expressed some
trepidation about.
Yes,
let's go. I want to hear about this.
Was doing the drive, because it's, you know, it's a 3+ hour drive from Sydney to Bathurst, and I was going to be doing this by myself. In a right-hand drive car on the left side of the road, something I had never done before. And I was really, really lucky that while I was in Melbourne and outside of Melbourne, I was offered the opportunity to get in a little bit of warm-up time, just doing a little bit of driving, just first outside, like in a pretty sparsely populated area, in a very old, like a 90s Toyota Corolla, and
people's car.
and with you know, people riding along with me who could coach me. So that kind of got me over just the initial nerves. It's like, okay, I can do this, you know. It was funny. It definitely feels weird and transgressive, but, you know, it's like, okay. So I did that, did it twice, once out in the country, and then once driving back in Melbourne at the end of the night, driving home. Short drive, but it's like, okay, now it's like I wasn't heading to the airport to pick up this rental car just 100% cold. It's like I knew, it's like, okay, I can do this, I think. So yeah, go pick up the rental car at the airport. What do I get? A Toyota Corolla, new one. And, yeah. And it's just like, you get in, I was able to plug in my phone. Happy about that. Like, you know, CarPlay comes up, except CarPlay is reversed, you know, like where the buttons are. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. But it's like, it's a little bit, like, damn, everything's backwards. Yeah, and go to pull out, and it's basically like you pull out of the airport and you're just like, you're on the fucking highway. And it was this kind of crazy thing of just like every brain, you know, fucking synapse just firing at once, just being like, no, what the fuck? You know, it's like, what is happening? Yeah, there was a good, like, you know, 5 minutes of just like, holy shit. And then you just kind of settle into it, and yeah, and then it's fine. It was weirdly fine.
That's awesome.
The things that I had trouble with, the thing that I did not know going into it was that the stocks are reversed. your turn signal, you're like what would be, your turn signal / headlights stock and your wiper stock, those are flipped. So, so every time you go to signal a turn, you're turning on your wipers. So that took me a while. I mean, I did generally acclimate, like where about 80% of the time I would get it right when I would go to signal without thinking about it. But every once in a while I would still go to signal and turn on the wipers and just be like, God damn it. And the other thing that was tricky, and Rory, you kind of gave me a heads up on this, was parking lots and just parking in general. That's the other thing is I'd never driven a right-hand drive car. And the thing that you don't think about is just being able to place a car when you're sitting on the other side of it is, you really have to fucking focus. And the backup camera in the Corolla wasn't the most helpful. That was hard. That was like parallel parking. It felt like learning how to parallel park for the first time all over again.
There's a lot of just the muscle memory of like where to look is was the biggest thing for me. It was just where do you look when you pull out of a parking lot? Where do you look when you're parallel park? Where do you look when you're turning into something? Like it's all like that's the unconscious thing that you don't think about.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I did it, and I drove all the way. I drove from Sydney up to visit our old Mountain Goats tour manager Bob and his family who live up the coast a ways. So that was a fun kind of twisty, beautiful drive, and that was like probably an hour and a half, and then spent the night there, and then drove out to the track the next day. That was a good 3.5-4 hours. And then drove all the way back, and like I say, I mean, it was pretty chill. But funny, the hard, like the most confusing thing, the most trouble that I had was when I got to to the gas station, because there's a gas station right next to the rental return. So I was like, okay, I gotta fill this bad boy up, and just pulling and I got there, and it was just like this huge feeling of accomplishment where it's like, fuck yeah, man, I did it. And then just getting out of the parking lot to go back of the gas station to go back to return the car I was so confused. I was so profoundly confused just because like I'm just like, like, how do I get, what the fuck? And I started just like, without thinking about it, just kind of like turning left and like trying to go out this way. And it's like, and there's a guy coming towards me, and he's just like looking at me like, what the fuck are you doing, dipshit? And I just kind of had to like, just stop and just kind of wave him past, and then like continue going the wrong, what I realized afterwards is like, no, you're going the wrong direction. It's like the shit goes clockwise, it's not counter. And it's like, this is stuff that you don't even think about. And it, but it's like, yeah, when you enter a roundabout, here, you're going counterclockwise, right? And roundabouts are very, very common there, and the thing is like, that was great because the roundabout, all you have to remember is just look right. And then it's like, if you're clear right, you just sail on through, and it's super easy. Actually easier than a regular intersection, because you have to think less. But yeah, the parking lot really fucking threw me, man. It definitely, it gave me some just insight into how driving must feel for people who are unsure of themselves as drivers. And I think I will have a little bit more patience, try to have a little bit more patience, just in general with unsure drivers, because
it's a noble thought.
it's been a long time since I've had that experience, and it was a little bit humbling, for sure. But yeah, so I guess that's everything but the race. So let's go to the fucking race. Bathurst, I mean, like we talked about it. I think I said that it's like, however cool it looks in pictures, in video, like, you know, I know just from having been to racetracks and the way that you know, especially elevation changes are very hard to perceive. It's always much more dramatic in real life. So I knew that it was going to be more dramatic. There is no way I could possibly have imagined how much more dramatic it is. The physical reality of this place is something that you cannot be prepared for until you experience it. It is fucking incredible. I mean, it's just a beautiful, beautiful setting. I was trying to think of like places in the U.S. that are similar, just like landscape wise. It has a little bit of, it reminded me a bit of like Eastern Washington and Oregon. If listeners have ever been in those areas, or maybe like Idaho, possibly like kind of like the, I've actually never really been to the weirdly kind of like Sierra foothills in California, but maybe a bit of that vibe too. But just really, really beautiful. You drive through the Blue Mountain Range, coming out to Bathurst. It's a beautiful drive, and then you get out there and you're kind of in this valley. And the track is the town itself is just this pretty sleepy old, I guess like gold rush town. That's like, you know, has lots of kind of houses dating back 100+ years. But even on a race weekend, it was still pretty sleepy. And I went to have dinner the first night, just found a spot in town that looked good, just kind of pubby place. And, you know, that was full of you know, people who were very obviously race teams, big parties of people, and found myself in, basically one of those kitchen nightmare episodes, you know, where it's just like the entire fucking place is just like melting down because they've never had this many people at once. So that was very funny. But it was fine. But yeah, so that's the town. And then the track itself is like, it's a bit elevated. Like even just like from the front straight, if you kind of go up to like the kind of the roof of the building that like where the pits are, the view from up there is just spectacular. Like you're looking down on the front straight, but you're also looking out on this just beautiful valley, you know, and mountains in the distance, and really lovely as cars are just like roaring past underneath you, and you're looking directly on top of, you know, people's pit boxes, you know, looking straight down onto the cars. Very fucking cool. Pretty yeah, I got there super early on Friday, first day, walking around, just checking shit out, and oh, here's the BMW. You know, there's a couple of WRT BMWs. Here are their garages. And there's a handful of people waiting around with their Valentino Rossi things, hoping for a sighting to be signed. And I was just, you know, hanging out there, just taking pictures of the cars. And sure enough, out comes fucking Mr. Rossi. And it's like, oh, goddamn.
Yeah, for context, very likely one of the, you know, 10 most famous people on the planet. I think. I
mean, for sure, the most famous person I have ever met. Yeah. Right? I mean, I thought about it. It's like, is there? I mean, I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, I've met lots of like sort of famous people, and I've met like a few like genuinely famous people. I mean, I fucking met David Letterman. Yeah. You know, but it's like,
But
Rossi's famous to more people than fucking David Letterman. Right?
He is vastly more famous than David Letterman. Like,
okay.
Yeah, I think like in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, around the world, he is like I would say he's probably a top 10 global like most known person. Like he is very, very famous.
Yeah.
Like I would say like my two experiences were seeing him at Le Mans and then seeing him at no, not seeing him at Le Mans, seeing him at Goodwood, and seeing like we were at Lord March's house and we were like looking down from a balcony and there was like this fucking mass of people. Like I thought there was something wrong or like people were fleeing a situation or something, but it was like, why would these like thousands of people be crowding around? And everybody, it was him in this crowd, and like everyone, it was like people who had no prayer of ever seeing him because they were so far away at the edge of the crowd were like, it was so bizarre. And it was like, oh, like that's like a global mega celebrity, like on par with like, any of the like more iconic recent footballers or soccer stars. Like he is like, massively famous.
Well, and the thing is, and what those people are drawn, I mean, those people at the outskirts of that mob, they are drawn to him by there's just the magnetism of his fucking, he has so much charisma. He's just one of those fucking people. And what was extraordinary was as he came walking out, and he saw that there were people waiting there, and he just had a smile, and he came over and he had time for everyone. I took a picture with I grabbed a selfie. It's like, fuck yeah, man. And the thing about him, his energy is so gentle.
He's so gentle.
And he he touches you, he puts his hand on your arm and on your shoulder, and it's just in the lightest way that it's just like, it's really like you feel like, I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't know that I've experienced that before, like where it's almost like and it's like, look, I mean, I know who this guy is and I've seen him drive and ride, and it's like, yeah, I know this guy is like really talented, but it's like I'm not part of his cult, you know. But like the guy has almost that fucking like touch that you could imagine like people like hoping to be blessed by the Pope or something would, it's like he touches you and you feel the thing of just like, oh wow.
He's Italian.
That's true. The touch starvation level of the American male, the European mind cannot comprehend.
But yeah, I think the thing that I said in the group chat to you guys was just, I've never seen somebody with that level of fame wear it so lightly. Just the effortlessness of it for him, and the grace and just the graciousness. It was really something to witness. I mean, it was like, wow, man, I get what is so special about this guy. This is a fucking special human being.
Everybody should read why, I'm not going to say it on the pod, but why he has the letters WLF on his racing letters.
Yes, I did. It's like I was reading his wiki later.
Yeah.
And I encountered that, and it's very funny.
That's fantastic. Now, oh, wow. I mean, hey, listen.
He does have another side to him. It's not all grace. He is Italian after all.
Incredible.
But yeah, so that was cool. Immediately sending, like sending this selfie to my friend Booney, who's a huge BMW guy, and him just being like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that would be like getting your photo taken with Michael Jordan in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean for real. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so that was cool. And so then I went up to the roof and was watching stuff and whatever. And at some point I was kind of like looking back down, and I see like somebody outside of the BMW garage, like signing stuff for somebody. And it's like, oh, who's that? And then I realized, oh, even from above, it's like, it's fucking Jackie Ix, because Jackie Ix is here.
Of course.
I think 6-time Le Mans winner, Belgian driver who's again like one of the most legendary kind of endurance and sports car drivers. I mean, he drove F1 too, back in the day.
When F1 was cool.
Yes, and a guy who he's 80 now, and he still does stuff. I knew he was going to be there that weekend. I wasn't sure why, but as it turns out, he's there as a he's doing stuff with Genesis.
Yeah.
And
I saw him at an auto
Genesis
show doing that. It was very surprising.
Yeah. And they were there with their new. They have this wild front-engined sports car prototype that they are going to be making a GT3 car out of. They're not just coming to hypercar. They're building a GT3 car, and this thing looked fucking cool.
Yeah,
I mean, it's really dramatic.
The X Gran Berlinetta concept, if you want to Google it. Very wild.
Yeah. So that was there doing demonstration laps throughout the weekend with Jackie Ix at the wheel, which I only found out afterwards. But yeah, I had encountered him once before. He was at Le Mans the year that I was there, and I was there in the Porsche garages because I was there with Porsche. So I this was like the morning of the race, and I think I was just in there kind of snooping around and taking pictures of all the crazy stuff and parts and lockers and displays and everything that is in the the Porsche garage at Le Mans. And I heard this kind of commotion behind me, and I look, and here's all these like camera crews and people kind of like coming through, backing their way through because somebody's coming. And I'm like, what's going on? And they pass me, and then it's like standing right in front of me is fucking Jackie Ix, and he's wearing like this full-on like immaculate white jumpsuit with his name embroidered on the breast, and he's just wearing like the wildest like these like kind of like cyberpunk like sunglasses / goggles. He just looked like a total vision. It was just like, wow. And I'm just like standing there like stunned, and he did this great thing where he saw me and he just paused. He didn't say anything. He just paused and gave me time to lift the camera and snap a pic. And then he just kind of nodded and smiled, and then he moved on. And I was just like, oh my God,
damn.
What the fuck just happened?
Class act.
And he was going out to do, I can't remember what they had him driving, but do some demonstration laps at Le Mans in one of his old race winning cars. I think the morning of the 2019 Le Mans race. So that was my prior experience with Jackie and Mr. Ix. And so I ran down there and grabbed him again for a selfie as well, and he was very sweet. So I mean, it's like it's 9 a.m. and I've already taken a selfie with Valentino Rossi and fucking Jackie Ix. and like I say, 9 o'clock in the morning of the first day of this event. And believe it or not, I mean, it just kept getting better from there. It's yeah, kind of scoped out, spent the morning kind of scoping out first day was just kind of like my get acquainted day, kind of get the lay of the land of the track. And so I kind of like wandered all around. The track is there's kind of like two spectator areas. There's kind of the area that's contiguous to the front straight, so that extends all the way to turn one, and then up a little bit up the kind of the straight going up the hill, and then on the other side, coming down through what they call the chase, which is this kind of like a loose chicane that they installed on the back straight coming down the hill at some point, I think in the 80s they said, but it's a very gentle kind of right hand bend, and then a hard left and right to get onto the final straight before the final turn. So you can get a ways up the chase, and that's actually a really cool spot, because when they come down that hill, they are fucking flying, man. Like, they are going so damn fast. I mean, like, 300 kph, and they go sailing full throttle through that right hand bend, and the point where they get on the brakes before that left, it's just like they brake so late, and I was down there watching kind of midday, and it was cloudy, but I mean, it was daytime, and the calipers on those cars, I mean, I've seen glowing calipers at night. That's kind of a standard thing. If you go to these races, you see the brakes glowing red, like if you go to Daytona or Road Atlanta, when it's dark out. I had never seen brakes glowing in the daytime before, and that's what's happening as these cars are braking for the chase. So that was really cool to see. So I had a great morning, and then
I will say, just to interrupt, the like the experience usually of like getting photos or video from your friend who's at a race is usually like kind of disappointing, because like the cars look so much faster in person, like, or so much closer, or like whatever, like the way your iPhone works or whatever. But like the videos and the photos that you were sending, it was like, holy shit, like you are really close to these cars. Like, and I'm sure, again, because it's an iPhone, it looks further away than it felt to you in person. But I was like, you are on top of these guys, like astonishingly close.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. Like the area that I'm just describing, like you're further removed at that point.
Yeah,
the chase, but when you get on the shuttle, you pay $10 Australian, so $6, $5. You get on a bus, and that takes you up the hill to the other kind of spectating area. So now you're at the top of the mountain, and this area goes from just like the exit of the corner that they call the cutting, which is this hard left-hander going uphill past somebody's house. I mean, like I said, these are all public roads. So there are people who live along the track when the track is not being used. So there's actually a person's house right there that they're driving right past. So you can get down pretty close to the exit of that corner, and from there, kind of all the way up to the top of the mountain to skyline, and then down all of those S's, coming down the hill, down the mountain, to what they call the forest kink, forest something, which is a very hard left-hander, kind of not at the bottom of the hill, but kind of at the bottom of that series of turns where they're just kind of like doing the slalom skiing thing. And that corner is much harder than it looks when you watch it on video. Like it's like almost like a full, not quite 180 degrees, but close to it. So you can get down to that point. So those are kind of So you can actually see most. You have access to more of the track than I thought. To most of it, there's still like parts of the straight coming up the hill and going down the hill that you don't have access to. But those spots, both going up the hill and going down, there are places where you are so fucking. I mean, you are right on top of the cars. You are looking directly down onto them. And also, you're on top of a fucking mountain. You're looking out. You can see for like, not just miles. I mean, we're talking tens of miles, possibly. I mean, it's like, it's the views are just like breathtaking, like whatever, pick your adjective. I mean, it's, I could not fucking get over it the whole time. When I got off of the shuttle and just started walking out and just realized like, and I'm not at the top yet, it's like I got off at the first stop, which is kind of like lower down, still going uphill. Even from there, it's just like, holy shit, this is insane. It's just like a beautiful spot. Even if it wasn't a racetrack, you would still just be like, wow, this is awesome. If you're just out for a hike, it's like, dude, check out this view. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's such a beautiful setting. It's so breathtaking. And then when cars start going around it, you're just like, hell yes. Because you're so close, and there's so many spots, that skyline spot, which, where I watched the race from, where you have to go at quarter till. Is that your deal? Okay, I'll try to wrap this up, pace it. But one of the other great kind of serendipitous things that happened was I think Friday night, I went to a different spot for dinner. Just overheard some guys on the shuttle talking about this hotel, that which in Australian parlance, hotel also usually means like pub or bar or just place where you go to hang out. It's not always a hotel. This place, I think, was both, but they were talking about, it's like, oh, it's a great place for dinner. So I was like, okay, I'll check this place out, and it was not far from where I was staying, and ended up sitting down. And like at the next table over, which was like, I mean, literally like 2 feet away from me. So I'm basically sitting right next to these guys, 2 dudes, and they're talking about the race. And they're obviously, they've got credentials, they've got the lanyards, and they're obviously media. And we're talking about interviewing the drivers and whatnot. And finally, at some point, I was just like, "Hey guys, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was just like, who are you guys here with?" And like, "Oh, well, we're with a website called dailysportscar.com, which is a website that I mean, I have a tab open on my laptop and on my phone, like have had open like for years. I mean, it's something I read every day, and I'm like, oh, okay. I know you guys, and the younger guy, Michael, he does a lot of writing. He does some traveling. He's based in Australia. Both of these guys are Aussies. Michael Zavallari, super nice guy. And then the other guy, older guy, photographer, Andrew Skippy Hall, whose stuff I have been looking at and admiring for years. And he's just like one of the best race photographers in the world. Yeah. And he's sick. And these guys were so freaking cool. And just they were really excited that I knew who they were, like especially like Andrew was just like so flattered that like that I knew his stuff and that I was a fan, and so they so we were just talking about I mean a million different things obviously, but racing experience, comparing race notes and experiences of different tracks and places and things, but I was asking them because my rough plan was to watch the start of the race at the bottom, and then just like jump on the shuttle and try and get up to the top for sunrise. But I wasn't sure if like, and I was hearing conflicting things because I was asking lots of people about this. It's like, what can I get up there? Will I miss the good light, and like how hard is it to get in there? Like, some people, it just depends. And those guys just said, just go to the top. Don't waste your time at the bottom. It's like the start of the race in the darkness. It's just going to look like a fucking freeway at rush hour. It does, you won't get anything good. It's just go to the top, start your day at the top. So okay. So that's what I did. So I watched it from Skyline, from the top. Cars come up the hill, crest the hill, the headlights, going across, and it's like, there is some light in the morning sky, even by the time they start. And when the headlights come around in the dark, out of the darkness, go across the top of the mountain, and then just like fucking plunge over the side, like they just disappear. They're gone. It's like they might as well have driven over a cliff. It's so freaking cool. And then wandering down like through those S's. There are so many just incredible spots to watch from, all the way down to the forest. I'm going to call it kink without checking the reference. Yeah, it's just like, I think I said at one point, it's like, this is the best racetrack I've ever been to. It is no contest, nothing. I mean, and look, like we've been to lots of cool places, right? And it's like, and yeah, those places are still, even Watkins Glen, like it still holds magic for me, and Le Mans is, I feel like that's one of the most magical places in the world, but just the physical reality of Mount Panorama and this racetrack in fucking Bathurst, New South Wales, is just extraordinary. And I don't know that there's anything like it in the world. And like those guys said, the guys from Daily Sports Car, it's like, and they've been to the Nürburgring, and it's like, I think that's kind of like maybe the only thing that would kind of compare to it, but because it's so big, it's like, that's the cool thing about Mount Panorama, is that it's big, it's really dramatic, but you can access most of it, and it's really, and the only shuttling that you're doing is just between the bottom and the top, so it's pretty easy to access all of the cool places. Whereas I don't know that would be the case at the Nürburgring. But yeah, man, like, as I said, I posted a thing to Instagram about it. It's just like, if this is a place that you have ever thought about going, if you've ever had the thing of just like, damn, that would be cool, like, fucking go. It's so awesome, so amazing. Haven't even had a chance to talk about the sports sedans and super sedans and sports cars class, which was like this whole like random, is one of the undercards. There was a Ferrari, like kind of the Ferrari spec series cars were running, which was cool. But then this kind of catch-all class where it was so random, so many fun, awesome, sick cars. That was really fun to see. Yeah, I mean, just an incredible experience. And the race itself was really exciting, really fun. Spent most of the day, up top. Was kind of thinking like, all right, I'll do half of the day up top and then go down for the second half of the race, because 12-hour race, there's a lot of time. But I actually ended up like spending 8 hours at the top, just kind of going, started the day at the top, went down the hill as far as I could go, went all the way back up, went down the hill the other side, kind of coming up the hill. And it was like, I think 8 hours down when I finally got on the shuttle to go back down to the bottom. But yeah, there's a ton of like really great spots to watch from down there. Kind of turn one, and the final corner, going onto the front straight. There's really cool, spectating spots. Yeah, I mean, just had the fucking best time. Met so many people. People are so friendly, so easy to make friends. And and of course, like, I mean, I guess like, you kind of have a just being able to pull the I came from the States card, for this, like then people want to be your friend just because it's like, dude, that's fucking cool. You came all the way here.
That's like when I showed up at Spigot and there was like a guy from the paper and he was like, "What do you mean you took a Greyhound here from Maryland?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I did. It's Spigot."
Right. Yes. But like, but they know. It's funny. There is kind of like the dual sense of like, they know how special Bathurst is. And the other thing is about it is that, the 12 hour is not the biggest race that happens there, right? There's the Bathurst 1000, which is I mean, that's basically the Australian equivalent of the Daytona 500, right? It's the V8 supercars. And it's a huge event and a huge party. So it's like they both have a sense of just like how special this place is, but to them, it's like there's a ton of just Aussie racing history here, and which I got a taste of going to the Australian Motorsports Museum, which is just right there at the track as well, which is freaking incredible. And where when I walked in, and they ask you, just like, I think they ask everybody, where are you from, just for their records, so they can keep track of where people are coming from. And I told them I'm from the U.S. and and one of the other guys at the counter there says to his friend, it's like, "Hey, charge that guy a tariff." And I laughed really hard. I said, "Buddy, if you did, I would love you for it." And we all had a good laugh.
Wonderful.
But that place is really incredible. Just the amount of history that is there, is pretty extraordinary. But the thing that is really cool about the 12 hour is that it has become, it's an international event, and it does, and it, like some really big deal Australian drivers compete in this, but it is their chance to go up against, some like top shelf, big name international drivers as well. And I mean, like one of the coolest things was being down like that first morning, and there were a couple of Ferrari kind of pro-am cars that were competing. And one of them, was a combo team of, that featured this Australian V8 supercar driver named Chaz Mostert, who's a huge figure there. I mean, he's like their equivalent of like, biggest NASCAR name, like Dale Earnhardt Jr. or
Gordon,
like Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, exactly. Like, this guy's a legend and a current driver still, but he is there. And and he's teamed with Daniel Serra, who's factory Ferrari driver, who multi several time Le Mans class winner, and a guy that you'll see at IMSA races and WEC races. And here's the two of these guys just chatting, just in the garage, like over the car. And it's like I wanted to listen to that conversation, and,
yeah, dude.
And Mostert, Chaz, as he's seems like he's generally called. I mean, he set the fastest lap of that race.
Let's go.
Kind of at a point in the race where that car was out of contention. I mean, it was still up there with the leaders, but the BMWs just were better on fuel, and they weren't going to have to pit again, whereas everybody else was going to have to pit one more time before the end of the race. And but Moster was still out there just fucking just sending it, and even though like kind of just for the hell of it, and it was during that last hour that he set the fastest lap of the race. So I mean, obviously a guy who knows the track pretty well, but still pretty cool to think here's a V8 supercar guy fucking just sending it in a Ferrari 296 GT3 car, and faster than anybody else. So it has a bit of the same the thing that makes the Rolex 24 at Daytona really special too, because you get all these drivers from various disciplines who don't normally get a chance to compete against each other. Kind of everybody in it all together, and so yeah, just really fucking cool. Great race, incredible event, incredible setting. Yeah, and I guess maybe we can leave it there. Go to fucking Bathurst.
Yeah, man.
It rules.
What a refreshing 2 hours of posi vibes. Peter returning from Australia with good stories and positivity and nice things. This is a cold drink of water on a hot day, Peter.
Right. Yeah, for sure, man. Definitely a psychological reset for me, for sure, in 1,000 ways. But yeah, really great trip. Had a really good time, and yeah, fucking awesome. So yeah, so that's good for now, and we can talk about more stuff. I mean, yeah, Rory's going to
Snowdrift this weekend.
Snowdrift
for one of the days to help out with friend of the show, Jimmy Pellizzari, and get their team out and about.
Yeah, so that'll be fun to hear about. And then there's also I didn't get to watch any Daytona action.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, which I need to. I mean, I've
you've heard the big stories,
read
sure,
and heard some of the stories, but definitely gotta watch some of that stuff, catch up. But that could be fun to talk about too.
Yeah, we have to talk about our another Wayne Taylor Racing classic progression. Break out the JPEG.
So funny,
baby. Oh,
so funny when you were sending that, and I think I had actually gotten because I was at a place where I signal was pretty intermittent, and I think just prior to you sending those screen caps through, I had somehow got on and saw something about that crash had happened. I was like, oh
yeah.
No.
Jordan got knocked out. Dames had a puncture. Just the classics of oh man, we did not manifest our good vibes hard enough. We'll try again next time.
Well, it's a long season.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we're just getting started. Hey, could be a good year.
Exactly. Yep.
Ah.
Cool.
Well.
All right. Well, yeah, I guess let's plan on more for Sunday.
We'll circle back on Sunday. It is. For your sake, I wish you could stay in Australia and enjoy it forever. But it's good to have you back, and I'm psyched to get up to more pod stuff. We're gonna have a fun time.
Yes. Stay tired, everybody.
Yep, stay tired out there, and we'll be back soon with more.
All right. Stay tired.